Hey y'all, Deepro here. Today I'm going to show you a couple of different API queries and help you get a feel of the Monday GraphQL API. So to get started, I've opened up my developer center here. Specifically, I'm in the API playground. This is a great place to test queries and get a feel for the GraphQL query language. The first query I'm going to use is getting data for the current logged in user. So Monday models data inside of our API based on objects and the relationships between those objects. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to start by querying a base field in GraphQL. In this case, there's a field called me, and this is essentially the current user. And in GraphQL, every time you refer to an object, you have to then refer to subfields underneath it, basically the data that you want to get about that current user. Now, the object me doesn't really mean anything until you actually define what data you want to get from me. Okay, in this case, I'll want to get the ID of the user. I'll want to get the name of the user, and maybe the birthday of the user. Okay, and this is essentially the basic structure of any query. Okay, we start with the query keyword. We then include one of the base fields that we have available, and then we query subfields on top of that object. Okay, the definition of me is a user. It has a user type, aka it inherits all of the fields on the user type. And you can actually see in our documentation, which is included in the playground, what other fields I can get. Okay, so I can also get the country code, for example, so where this user is based, current language, a lot of other information. Okay, but we're going to keep it to this right now. And when I hit play, I'm going to get data from this user. All right, so I've gotten that data back, and you can see that it has my name, it has my birthday, it has where I am, and has a request ID. Okay, great. Okay, the cool thing about GraphQL is you can also query objects underneath other objects. So the me query has a bunch of fields. Some of them are scalars. So these are numbers, strings, IDs, and those get returned as is. But some are objects themselves. Okay, one example is the teams object. When I write teams, I can list out ID, I can list out the name, and if I have any teams associated with this user, I'll get them back. In this case, I don't have any teams associated with this user, so I just get an empty array. And if I did have, I would get additional information for those teams. Okay, but that's the basic structure of the me query. I'm going to walk you through a couple of other examples as well, so you can get a feel for the language. All right, the next query we're going to work through is querying data from a board. Okay, in this case, I'm going to use my client projects board, which I have in another tab here. And you can see that this board has a bunch of projects. It has columns on it. Each column has data inside of it. And I'm going to show you how you can get some data from this board. Okay. The first thing you want to do is use the boards object. Okay. So boards is a base field. It's a field that you can query at the root of any operation, and it takes an argument. Okay. Arguments are essentially data that you pass to fields to tell the Monday API, I want to get specific information from this field. Don't give me every single board. Okay, in this case, I'm going to say only give me boards that have this specific ID. I'm going to get that ID from the URL here. You can also get it from the API if you wanted to, but this is what I'm going to do right now. And now I have to select some subfields. Okay, we're going to start really simple. I'm just going to get the ID and the name of the board. And that gives me client project, and it gives me the ID that I actually just gave it. That's great. That works. But now what if I want to get metadata about this board, okay, and another information? Maybe I want to get the structure of the board. In this case, I can use the columns object. And what the columns object returns is the columns on this board. It doesn't return the data inside of the columns. It returns information about the columns, metadata about the columns. Okay, so this way I can get the board structure. What I will get from each column is the ID of the column, and I will get the title, okay, which is essentially the name of the column, right? It's what's at the top bar there. And when I hit run, I get an array of columns. For each one, I get the ID and I get the title, and you can see that these correspond with the columns on this board as well, right? Owner, priority, timeline, status. Over here, I get owner, priority, timeline, status. I also get a sub-items column, which is supported on some boards. It's essentially a hidden board that you can, a hidden column that you can query to get data about the connected sub-items. All right, so now that I have this column data that is a little bit useful, I can use it to get information about the board structure. But what if I want to get the actual data from the board, right? For that, I need to query items on the board, okay? Items on the board are they are packaged inside of an object called items page. Okay, what items page represents is a page of items. Okay, I can use it to essentially paginate through items. So I can say I only want a certain number of items. I can then get more and more items, and I can also use it to actually query the board. Okay, and like filter. For now, we're just going to keep it blank, and then we'll add the arguments later. And then underneath items page is the actual items object, okay? So items page represents a container of a certain number of items, and then the items live inside of it, okay? For each item, I can get the name of the item, and I can get the ID of the item. Let's just do that for now. Let's keep it simple. And you can see that now I get this data back. I get these people or the project names, and I get the item name, the item ID as well, okay? Now, I said that we can use items page to filter and to paginate, so I'm going to show you the pagination option first. So what I can do is I can add a limit argument. I'm going to say limit 5. This board has how many items on it? It has 8 items on it, so maybe I'll put limit 2 so you can see the pagination at work. So now now items page will only return 2 items. Great. So now this is returning 2 items, but this is not that useful because what if I want to get the 3rd item? I need to then use cursor pagination. So I'm going to add cursor to this, and I'm going to hit play. And now this is going to return is all the data I need to paginate through this set of data. Okay, I have the name of the item, the ID of the item, sure, but then I also get this cursor, okay, which essentially tells Monday. Tells me that this is the end of the page that I'm at. And then in my next API call, I can pass this to items page as a string. Oops. So I got to put this inside of quotes. And when I hit play, this is now going to give me 2 items after that cursor. So in the first call, I got these 2. And then in the next call, I got these 2. Okay? You can see that here. And then I get a cursor again. And I can do this again. And I get the following 2. So now this is item 5 and 6. And then I do it again. And I get item 7 and 8. And at the end of the board, I get a null cursor. Okay? This null cursor tells me there's no more items on the board. I received everything. Okay? So this is just quickly how you can do cursor pagination and get data from your Monday account in smaller batches. This is really useful if you have big boards and you are trying to paginate through them and like get all of the data without doing it in one API call. All right, now that I've shown you cursor pagination, the other thing I just want to quickly flag is how you can filter data from items page. Okay. Our documentation has a lot of information about this, but I'm just going to show you the arguments involved. So items page takes this query parameters argument, and under it you can add rules, which define what filter rules you want to apply to the data. So instead of getting all the items, maybe you only want to get items where the status is done. Okay, you can set that up in rules. And let me quickly show you how you can actually find examples of filtering. Okay, so go to our documentation, developer.monday.com. Click API docs if you don't already have that, and then in our API reference, in the column types reference, every single column has an example of how to filter. Okay, so if I go to status, I can go to filter by the status column, and it'll tell me all the different values that I can filter for. So I can filter for a specific label with the contains term operator, and I can add that here. So I can just copy this, paste it here, And let me just make sure that this is here. I'm going to update the column ID with the column ID here. I'm going to make this the specific status. I want it to be done. And I want the operator to be contains terms. And when I hit run, this should only get me the done items. Okay. And you can see Nina and Sophia are the 2 done items. So that is filtering data with items page. The last thing I'm going to show you is mutations. So far I've shown you queries. These are examples of API calls that get data from Monday, but you can also use our API to update data inside of your Monday account. All of these, this kind of class of queries are called mutations. The syntax is very similar. We use this kind of nested field syntax to get data, but the keyword at the top is different. Okay, so instead of starting your API call with query, we're going to say mutation. Okay, this is the keyword that tells Monday that I want to change data inside of my board. Okay, and let's start with a pretty simple mutation: create item. Okay, every mutation starts with this keyword, and then I have to pass arguments to it. Okay, when I look at create item, I can see that there's a few arguments that have exclamation marks. These are the required arguments. So specifically, create item requires a board ID. I'm going to add this board. It requires an item name, which is a string. In this case, I'm going to say this is an item test. And there's nothing else that it needs. So I'm going to keep it really simple for now. And you'll notice that I need to specify subfields. It's because create item returns an item, and it returns the item that was just created. And so I can filter, so I can query the ID on that item. And I can also query maybe the name, okay, so that I get verification that this was actually created. And when I do that, I get the ID of the item and the name. And when I open up my board, you can see that this item has been created. Now this is a very simple query, or a simple mutation, and I'm going to create a more complex one so that you can get a sense of how this works. Let's say I want to update column values for this item. I can take this ID, I can update the mutation to change multiple column values. And then what this requires is an item ID, item ID, board ID, which I think I deleted. I don't need an item name anymore. What I need is column values. Yes. And the column values object is a string. It's a very specific kind of string. It's a JSON string, which you can create programmatically with a JSON object. But in the playground, you need to write this yourself. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to create like a JSON. So I need to create some curly brackets, and then inside of it, every key of the column values will have to be it has to be a column ID. So in this case, maybe I want to update the priority. So I'm going to use this column ID. And every inner string inside of this JSON has to be escaped. In the playground, this is very, it is a lot of manual work. It takes a lot of time. But inside of your application, you can generate this from a JSON programmatically. In JavaScript, you would use the JSON.stringify method. In Python, you use JSON dumps, which is like dump string. It like creates it creates a string from a dictionary. But in the playground, you have to write this manually. So make sure that all of your inner strings are escaped. We have a backslash before every inner quotation mark, and then you should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to make this done. So what I'm doing is I'm updating this item with the done priority. Sorry, it shouldn't be done. That's not a priority. It should be high. And then let's make the status done. Okay, so let me see what the column ID is. We are good to go, and you can see that this has been updated. So that is a bunch of different API calls in the Monday platform. I hope this was helpful, and check out our YouTube channel for other videos as well. Cheers.